for yourself later Proverbs 5 verses 15 to 19.
Wie zum Beispiel in Sprüche 5, 15 bis 19, das könntet ihr später.
I don't want to read it because this is a little bit too sensual at times, okay? I don't want to offend anybody here.
Ich möchte hier niemandem zu nahe treten, weil schon ein bisschen krasse.
Yeah, graphic, yeah. A little bit too graphic. But clearly, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that the Jewish men were not allowed to read this not until they are 30 years old.
Was ich vergessen habe, euch zu sagen, jüdische Männer durften nicht lesen, bevor sie 30 wurden.
So, and in SBS, we tell the students you don't have to, we call, homework we call is charting, and that means that you do like a commentary of the whole book. Yeah?
In der SBS sehen die Hausaufgaben der Studenten so aus, dass sie Diagramme zu dem Buch malen und im Prinzip einen Kommentar des ganzen Buches schreiben.
But we say, especially to the men, you don't have to do it. They can get a free ride here, so you don't have to do it. If you struggle, because it is sexual, therefore we say, you know, you don't have to do that. Wait till you're 30, okay?
Aber Männern, die die Schule machen, vor allem sagen wir, ihr müsst die Hausaufgaben nicht unbedingt machen zu diesem Buch, wenn euch das vom Herz her schwierig fällt, weil es schon viele sexuelle Sachen da drin gibt. Und dann sagen wir, okay, wenn du 30 bist, wenn du mal verheiratet bist, dann kannst du es machen.
And so these are different poems for different days of the week-long wedding. Their weddings are 1 week long.
Also nach dieser Auslegung sind es verschiedene Gedichte, die an den verschiedenen Tagen der Hochzeitsfeier, der 7-tägigen Hochzeitsfeier gesungen wurden.
Okay, and so they celebrate the love between the husband and the wife, between the bride and the groom at these weddings.
Darin wird die Liebe hervorgehoben und gefeiert zwischen dem Mann und der Frau, zwischen
They
dem
talk
Bräutigam
about
und der Braut.
They celebrate that they fell in love with each other,
Es wird gefeiert, wie sie sich ineinander verliebt haben,
that they are attracted to one another.
dass sie sich gegenseitig angezogen fühlen.
But it also speaks of fidelity, of exclusiveness, about being faithful to your only spouse that you will ever have.
Es handelt aber auch von Ehetreue, dass man in einer exklusiven Beziehung ist und dass man dem Partner gegenüber treu sein wird.
And so in this particular interpretation they say this is the way the Israelites understood this particular book.
Also diese Auslegung sagt, so hätten die Israeliten dieses Buch verstanden.
It speaks of that special something that only, you know, husband does not need to share his wife with anybody. That is like you have a unique right to a special relationship that you don't share with anybody else to your wife, and of course vice versa.
Das heißt, dass der Mann seine Frau mit niemandem teilen muss und die Frau ihren Mann, sondern dass man das Recht hat auf diese einzigartige, auf diese total exklusive Beziehung mit einem anderen Menschen.
Okay, and so it's a sacred matrimony, it's a sacred marriage.
Das ist der heilige Ehebund,
Two becoming one flesh,
wo zwei zu einem Fleisch werden.
with all its joys and pleasures,
Mit all den Freuden, mit all den Vergnügen.
but also warning against rushing into marriage because you don't want to marry the wrong person.
Aber scheinbar gibt es auch eine Warnung davor, zu schnell hineinzurennen in die Ehe, weil es gibt die Gefahr dabei, dass man den Falschen oder die Falsche erwischt.
Because the book of Songs explains that marriage is lifelong.
Im Hohelied der Liebe wird Ehe als etwas Lebenslanges gesehen.
Love is consummated on the honeymoon day, but it also continues all your life.
Dass Liebe etwas ist, was erfahren wird, oder Sex etwas ist, was erfahren wird in der Hochzeitsnacht, aber etwas, was das ganze Leben über weitergeht.
And it does not encourage self-indulgence. Instead, it's doing quite the opposite. It promotes the other person. It's talks about faithful, and it talks about how beautiful the other person is.
Es geht nicht darum, die eigenen Bedürfnisse zu befriedigen, so wie das hier beschrieben ist, sondern es geht darum, immer wieder zu zeigen und zu sagen, wie schön der andere, der Partner ist.
And it wants to fulfill the needs of the other, rather than only looking for self-gratification.
Es will die Bedürfnisse des anderen erfüllen und nicht nur sich selbst befriedigen.
Romance in a modern world is thought of as something that precedes marriage.
Heutzutage wird Romantik als etwas gesehen, was vor der Ehe kommt.
Song, the Song of Solomon, song teaches the opposite.
Aber das Hohelied der Liebe, das lehrt genau das Gegenteil.
Rather than saying romance precedes marriage, in the Jewish mind, romance is supposed to characterize marriage.
Statt dass die Romantik vor der Ehe kommt, ist nach dem jüdischen Verständnis die Romantik etwas, was eine Eigenschaft der Ehe sein soll.
And that is what song points to.
Und diese Lieder, diese Gedichte, die weisen darauf hin.
Okay? Any questions?
Habt ihr Fragen?
Was that interesting? I mean, you probably didn't fall asleep the last hour.
Fand ihr das interessant? Also ihr wart ziemlich
Students usually don't do fall asleep.
ausgesehen die letzte Stunde.
Yeah. So, and before, especially in SBS, I always find a guest speaker to teach at Song of Solomon. I didn't want to talk about this stuff.
Als ich SBS geleitet habe, da wollte ich mal, dass ein Gastsprecher kommt und das Buch unterrichtet. Ich wollte da nicht so gern drüber reden.
But now I have to, so I do.
Aber jetzt muss ich ja, also tue ich's.
So, but because it's a little bit embarrassing, perhaps, but it's beautiful too, actually. And I'm looking. All of you guys are still single, right? Right here in the group. You guys are all single. Only in the back we have a married couple. So I wish you a very, 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 very happy marriage. Okay, with lots of romance. Okay.
Das ist ein Thema, das uns ein bisschen peinlich berührt, aber ihr seid ja alle noch Single. Ich wünsche euch ein wirklich tolles, erfülltes Eheleben eines Tages.
With lots of fulfillment that you can give your spouse.
Mit viel Romantik und viel Erfüllung, die ihr an euren Partner weitergeben könnt.
Okay, and probably you'll get it back to from the spouse.
Und dann werdet ihr das wahrscheinlich auch von eurem Partner zurückbekommen.
Any questions? Which interpretation do you think is the most accurate?
Habt ihr Fragen? Welche Interpretation findet ihr am wahrscheinlichsten? Was hättet ihr am akkuratsten?
Which one do you think?
Well, I don't know the answer, but I like the lyrical interpretation.
Which one?
The lyrical?
The lyrical, the last one.
Yeah.
Okay. We probably hear that the least in church.
In der Gemeinde würde man das wahrscheinlich am wenigsten hören.
Cinderella one.
Huh?
Cinderella one.
What?
Cinderella.
You like the Cinderella one, huh? So the dramatized one. I like that one too. Especially when Solomon is the villain, I like that one.
Der Bösewicht ist, das finde ich gut.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've studied this book once.
Uh-huh.
I taught it together with GC, which was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of criticism of Solomon in here. Even at the end where she says,
Right.
Solomon, you can keep your vineyard. It's an expensive one, you can keep it. My vineyard is only for myself and I give it to whoever I choose.
Yeah.
And it's so much like Solomon is not seen as the good guy in this.
If you read it carefully, I think you'll get that out of it. You can get out of that.
So
Yeah.
I'm somewhere between a dramatic and a lyrical
Yeah.
interpretation. It's definitely a collection of,
Yeah.
of different parts. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
a one very clear story, but it could be that that it's been put together in a specific way
Yeah.
with the characters being somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
For the reasons of just bringing across the message.
Yeah.
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 That's my take on it right now.
Okay. First question in the back, and then over here. Yes.
When would this typically have been read, like in like the Jewish like history, like?
In the lyrical, well, if it's a lyrical interpretation, then it would be. It's a poem that they are singing, perhaps, and playing out during the 1 week long wedding.
Yeah, I think that also really makes sense with like the function of like the friends at the like
Right.
wedding, you know,
Yeah.
because I feel like otherwise it's so out of place and so weird,
Right.
you know. So I also think that
Yeah.
fits really well.
But only for the 30 and older.
Yeah. Now, I guess they
I
don't-
can't join.
After the kids went to bed.
Yeah.
The ones below 30 have to go to bed. They're being sent home. I don't know how they
I'm only
solve that.
26.
Yeah. There was one question here and then over here. Somebody raised their hand here.
Like just the thought that like maybe it's not original interpretation like about Jesus and church or Jesus and us, but
Uh-huh.
like if it's supposed to be about love and marriage, and Jesus does describe himself as a bridegroom,
Right.
then I guess like maybe it's weird to think about like Jesus in a sexual way, but in some way it is how he describes himself, like that his love for us is so passionate and is so intimate, like in marriage. And I think and maybe it shouldn't be the first, and it shouldn't like cover the sex topic because it's like a shame thing, and I think it shouldn't be. But I think it's also a great like it's a revelation of how God is.
Yeah. Okay, and that's fine. Then you would just say there is an original meaning, and there is also a typology, and that's fine, and that's common today too. The unfortunate thing, however, is when teachers teach the typology and don't teach what the original intent was of the author. And that gets us all confused
Right.
when we do that. So provided the author first begins to explain the original intent of the author and the audience, people at least know why it's in Old Testament, how it fits in the Old Testament, what was God's purpose for it, and then you're going to spiritualize it by saying, okay, there is a type and there is a fulfillment in the New Testament, I'm okay with it. And there are people that learn a lot, they really are growing in their relationship with Jesus, reading Song of Solomon. So praise God, you know.
I think generally this book wouldn't be your starting point for that, but you would go from the passages in the New Testament where Jesus is described that way, and then you can ask the question, so what does that say about Jesus in the church? And of course you wouldn't go as far as say sex, right? So then you also have to ask the question, so what does that say about Jesus in the church, and what does it not say? Right, but it is, yeah, I agree.
So, yeah,
I've also heard from people who have drawn out some very personal, beautiful truths
Right.
out of this metaphor of Jesus and the bride. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting topic, right, that you're going to have to explore for yourself a bit.
Yeah. Good. You know, because you see, we have books like Esther that is allegorized. Well, at least Song of Solomon, when you allegorize, because it's poetry. So there is a little bit of figure of, you should see figure of speech in there. So I can see a little bit more of that. But then they also allegorize Esther, for example, which is totally historical narrative. And then the king, looking for a new bride, the king is like God or Jesus. And come on, this king has a harem of I don't know how many wives. And he gets upset with one. And it is not at all representing the character of Jesus. And yet they are allegorizing. And then you lose the whole original meaning of the book of Esther. And I want you to discover the original meaning. The original meaning is beautiful.
Yeah.
This is in its Song of Solomon in its original meaning is beautiful. There is a lot to be learned, a lot of truths to be found, wisdom about how we should live. And so, as long as it doesn't cloud the original meaning or makes that obscure, then I'm okay with it. Less so with Esther. I have less problem with Song of Solomon when people do that.
Die Leute schaffen es alles Mögliche zugleich zu machen, selbst zum Beispiel Esther. Aber ich finde es so wichtig, dass wir erstmal den ursprünglichen Sinn sehen. Und der ist bei diesem Buch beim Hohelied der Liebe so wunderschön und das sollten wir nicht verpassen.
Yes?
I'm gonna say that before, when we were discussing about who the author could be, Anna kind of leaned over and said, knowing that Solomon might not be the author actually makes me enjoy the book more.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I was like, totally. Yeah, definitely, because that was an issue that I didn't really ever identify before, like, but that I had with this, because I knew how many wives he had, and I was like, well, how special is that?
Yeah.
What does that say about the purpose, why the book is written? If it's really written as a critique of Solomon's lifestyle. It tries to contrast true love with what Solomon said.
Yeah, exactly. That's so comforting, because I've heard so many people saying, oh, well, Solomon had so many wives, God doesn't, he doesn't condemn that. It doesn't say anything about, it being monogamous or whatever. So, it's so comforting.
Except in the law.
Yeah, Solomon
In the
was
law, it does
supposed to
condemn
have
a king having many
Okay.
wives.
Well, yeah, but that's not what people say. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
People say.
Yeah.
People are stupid.
Yeah, only
All
we
of
are
them.
not stupid. We are people, but we are not stupid.
That's stupid.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed being with you guys, and I'm very encouraged. As I was saying earlier during the break, I think you're also a real inspiration. I hope I'm an inspiration to you, but you certainly are an inspiration to me. Being here, being able to teach and see young people love the Word, love Jesus, and wanting to study the Word, and wanting to end Bible poverty, and Bible literacy. It just really gets me stoked and excited and gives me hope again for the future. So thank you for having me. It was a privilege and honor being with you guys.